A short history of Utah Lake. The Utah Lake story is actually a continuation of the Lake Bonneville story. Lake Bonneville underwent dramatic changes for most of its history and evolution, eventually resulting in Utah Lake. Here's the natural history of Utah Lake in 90 seconds. For millions of years, this area was a shallow sea as evidenced by sedimentary rocks throughout the valley prior to the formation of Lake Bonneville. When Lake Bonneville formed 800,000 years ago, it covered an area over 20,000 square miles. It was larger than Lake Michigan and on several geologic periods greater than 1,000 feet deep. If it existed today, it would be the fifth largest lake in the world. It was a beautiful, clear, freshwater lake held in place by natural barriers such as the Wasatch Front Mountains. 14,500 years ago, the Red Rock Barrier in Idaho broke, releasing water that traveled all the way to the Pacific Ocean. This dramatically reduced Lake Bonneville. Over the millennia, Lake Bonneville started to fill with sediment and became shallower and more nutrient-laden, and subsequently more biologically productive. 12,000 years ago, as the climate became warmer and drier, Lake Bonneville shrank to three remnant puddles: the Great Salt Lake, Sevier Lake, and Utah Lake. The Great Salt Lake went through the most dramatic ecological shift. With no outlet other than evaporation, nutrients and salt progressively concentrated and drastically changed life in the now shallow, salty lake that we see today. Sevier Lake, located southwest of Utah Lake, was used by the pioneers in the 1870s as a water source for irrigation. As recently as the 1980s, Sevier Lake was documented to be similar in surface area to the 1870s description. However, today, Sevier Lake has disappeared. It's gone. Utah Lake is now the only freshwater remnant of Lake Bonneville. Bonneville cutthroat trout and 12 other fish species thrived by the millions. More species of freshwater mollusks called Utah Lake home than anywhere in western North America. Birds, wildlife, and Native Americans thrived. Based on accounts of first explorers, Utah Lake was perhaps the most ecologically diverse, productive, and awe-inspiring lake in the western United States prior to settlement in the mid-1800s. By most accounts, without the incredible bounty that Utah Lake provided, the Latter-day Saint community likely would have perished. Utah Lake's Native Americans generously provided early settlers with trout and suckers that allowed them to survive their first few winters. But due to human activity, the amazing Utah Lake of the 1800s is gone. A lake that endured for millennia has been ecologically devastated within 150 years. At least a dozen native fish gone. Most species of freshwater mollusks gone. Most of the natural water filters, the mussels and clams, gone. Here are several examples of things done to the lake during the last 150 years that seemed like good decisions at the time, but had unintended consequences. Over-harvested native fishes, completely eliminated cutthroat trout, and nearly eliminated June suckers. Introduced carp. Carp were supposed to be a food source that would grow quickly. They did. They took over the lake and caused an ecological cascade effect that removed the lake's ability to cleanse itself. Removed too much water. Pumps were installed for irrigation, and at one point so much water was removed that Utah Lake nearly dried up during the Dust Bowl. Water levels are regulated now, which turned the lake into a reservoir instead of a natural, free-flowing lake. This is known as the compromised level. At the low level, no more water is pumped out, and at the high level, water flows naturally down to the Jordan River. Disposed raw sewage into the lake. Raw sewage flowed into the lake as late as the 1950s. The leaders of Utah realized this was not good and began building treatment plants to clean the water, and continue to do so today. As the population grows closer to the lake, they invariably mistake midges for mosquitoes and poison them. Midges are one of the few remaining biologic workers that help remove and regulate algae blooms, and they are being killed off. When they are gone, who or what will regulate the algae blooms in the lake? What words describe Utah Lake today? It's turbid. That means it's cloudy, opaque, and sometimes thick with suspended matter. It's shallow, with a 15 feet maximum depth. For comparison, the Great Salt Lake has a maximum depth of 33 feet, Bear Lake 207 feet, and Lake Powell 558 feet. It's temperate. It has mild temperatures. It's slightly saline, and it's eutrophic to hypereutrophic, which means it's rich in nutrients and minerals that increase biological production and can on occasion induce excessive growth of algae and deplete oxygen. There is a lot more that plays into the health, function, and future of the lake, such as its biodiversity, productivity, and unique food web, including algae, mollusks, zooplankton, benthic invertebrates, birds, and nutrients. But of this you can be sure, lakes have a life cycle. They are born and they die. The management decisions being made right now could kill Utah Lake sooner or perhaps extend its life. It's really up to you.